Hello, I'm Professor Margaret Rogers Van Coops, and welcome to my show, The Truth. Every so often, I watch what's on the news and I hear what people are saying and doing, and it sparks me in some way to want to talk about something. Recently, I was watching people who were channeling, and bearing in mind that I've been channeling since I was 2 years old, I'm now 81. You can see that I really do know quite a lot about the world of channeling. So I thought I'd like to explain to you, first of all, the different types of channeling, and then go through into more detail so I can give you some ways to protect yourself when you do decide to channel. So, bearing in mind that I was only 2 years old when I started to hear the voices in my head, and those voices would tell me run over to that person and give a message without any blocks in my consciousness because I'm 2 years old and I don't know anything to be afraid of other than bombs dropping on us every night, which I've become used to as a child. But not really knowing what was behind all those explosions, because obviously nobody tells a child about why bombs are going off bang. They're just considered to be tests or something for a child to not be worried. So here I was around two and running up to a person to tell them that Sam's okay. My mum, coming out behind, crippled, was walking limping, came and apologized to the woman. And the woman said, "No, no, no, you don't understand. I received a message that my husband was missing in action, get it out of my mouth, and was considered dead. And I was giving her a message that said, Sam is all right." And the tears were down her face. And I remember that. And on the way away, my mother's got my hand. She's saying, "You mustn't talk to strangers, darling. We don't know them." And I tried to tell her that I didn't know about those things, but she didn't understand that I had psychic skills in those days. By the time the war had finished, I was 3.5, and my father came back from the war. And because my mother was a cripple, the regimental reunions were a monthly event, and she was often too tired or in pain to go. So Dad took me. And I would sit on their laps and get really hot and watch their auras go from yucky blues and browns and greens, really negative colors. And I would just generate all this energy. And then I would see their aura was pearlesque like abalone. And so I could jump down and I'd run off to play and do a one-arm bandit, sell some raffle tickets as well, collect money in a hat or something. And of course, Dad was overseeing me a bit. But by the time I got to be 7, they had the officers and gentlemen of the battalion had decided that I was more than just a kid because of my healing skills. And so I was honoured by the entire regiment. I had to salute as they all marched by the brigadier general and majors and my dad as well on the desk. And of course, that was an event that was so explained to me over and over again how important it was. And it was also, at that time, everybody knew I wanted to be a nurse because they gave me a nurse's outfit to wear for dressing up. And so I was well pleased and actually decided at that moment I am a nurse, therefore I will study to be a nurse. So in school, all my things that I wanted to do was art, music. I loved to sing. My parents sung and things like this as well. I liked to play games. I loved biology. I loved anatomy, physiology. I hated geography. I hated history when it was all about the misery. But when it was good, I loved it. But I learned a lot through that education. And by the time I was 16, I was doing weekend nursing to learn to physically wash and bathe people who were from the war. And of course, they wanted to tell me all about the war, so I learned to hear what I didn't know as a child. And as I grew older, I began to see that no one in England or France or Spain had got over the effects of World War II. In fact, my mediumship went on so much to develop that I would be able to walk up to strangers in the street just as before and say, "Don't worry, it's okay." Put my hand on them and just say, "Do you mind if I touch you here?" And they would say, "Oh, okay, what?" I said, "I'm a healer and I do it." And they go, "Oh, I can feel that. Thank you." Where did I get that courage from? Well, my spirit guides were still in my head telling me to go heal people. So by the time I was about 24, the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain had heard about me, and so I'd been taken there and I did a night showing how I could do messages from a whole congregation in the church, not just one or two like most mediums did in those days, maybe if you're lucky, 5 or 6 medium messages. Here was I doing the entire complex of maybe 50 people. Today I still do that. In fact, up at the college here, Municipal College of our town in Havasu, I do those nights. In fact, in September, I'm doing 4 nights where I'm addressing post-traumatic stress disorder from birth to death. Now, you might think, well, I wasn't in the army. No, it's not about army. It's about daily activities where you learn to be in shock, in fear, in anger, in frustration, and so many more things going on. But today I wanted to talk about your psychic ability and channeling. Everybody comes up to me and says, "I want to channel, what do I do?" And so what I do is teach them how to A, B, relax and let your thoughts go, and B, trust that the oneness spirit guide is not evil and is really there to help you, and C, to understand that your mind has a wealth of knowledge and wisdom from the lives that you've lived in terms of how long you've lived. And so if you're young, you might not have too much experience with this world, but nonetheless, you will pick up phrases from your spirit guides, just like I did as a young child, and speak them out aloud to people around you who may well say, "Oh, I know that." Recently, I went to a gong night, special sounds and things to listen to. And while this was going on, I suddenly found myself with a gentleman in my body who had no uh, physical use on the right side. After it was over, I had to ask, who in this room has just lost someone who died from a stroke? And a woman across from me said, "I did. My husband died 2 days ago." So this was proof of the pudding that once again, to a whole bunch of people in the room, the channeling was important. So let's define channeling. Channeling can be you just hear something in your head, you repeat it aloud, as I just said, and someone else around you accepts what you've just said and confirms to you that you are hearing a true voice from a true spirit guide. Second question that comes up all the time is, well, how do I know it is a spirit guide? Well, the bottom line is you allow yourself to hear what the spirit guides are going to tell you. And over a period of time, each time they tell you something, you start to see how accurate what you've spoken out loud to others about has been acknowledged. And therefore, you know that that spirit guide is telling you a truth. Therefore, they are a spirit guide. The next question that people ask me is, how do I know if they're ascended masters? Well, how do you know that you're an ascended master or anyone else is an ascended master? No one knows unless you speak about it. So when you want to know more about your spirit guide, you sit down quietly in a room where you will not be disturbed with a pen and paper and a book, and you literally empty your mind, open up your chakras, which we're going to now. There are other things I've talked about chakras. You can go and look at all my iTunes show, Journey into the Unknown World, where that is explained, and all my YouTubes on YouTube. Okay, so you'll find these on chakras, so we're not spending time on that now. So here you are sitting down with a book, and you say to your spirit guide, "What is your name?" And you write the first thing that comes into your mind into that book. Then you say, "What country were you born in?" And then they will give you the last life they were born, say Egypt or Peru or somewhere, or it might be simply Germany. They could have died in the last war or more other wars. There were many wars. Then you ask after that, "How did you die?" They may say wounds, simple word, or they may say health. You don't want, I had cancer and I had this and I had that and so on. That will confuse you. You want simple one word answers. So your spirit guide will give you those. Why? Because it's easy for you to hear one word, write it down, and not go into garbage thoughts from your conscious mind. Once you've written that down, then you ask male. If they're not, they may write female. If they are female, they may say so in your head. You can write it down or you can just accept it. Second aspect, what clothes do you wear? They may give you a feeling of wearing a jacket when you know you haven't got one on. Or they may give you a sense of long hair when you know you have short hair. Or they may give you a sense of your body suddenly being much bigger than you are because you're petite and you know the difference. Or the opposite. You feel really big and suddenly you're finding yourself feeling very small. Coming to know your spirit guide this way is anatomical and they'll work with you physically to give you that sense. Once you are used to writing down what they say in one words, then it will lead to you writing paragraphs. The paragraphs will be for you to apply to yourself and to your life. At the same time, there'll also be messages for you to give to other people. Once you've achieved this stage, then you begin to realize that your spirit guide is trying to make you sleepy. At that point, when you feel sleepy, it might be that you actually fall entirely asleep and do nothing and wake up feeling refreshed. But during that time you're asleep, your spirit guides will be working on releasing your fear, pain, anger, guilt, and losses, healing you as well where possible, and leaving you to wake up feeling rejuvenated and much better. This could happen many, many times before they actually want to stay with you and help you channel. Now, when they do, they will come to a point where they will use your mindset to channel. So it sounds exactly as though you are speaking yourself. And when you speak, you will have halted moments just as you would in real life. So I'm going to ask the spirit guide right now to channel through me and use just my personality. I'm so used to doing it that it doesn't take but a second. But to explain, I will drop my head. You would do that too. A breath comes and then you know you're ready to speak. You have no plans, have no ideas what you're going to say. You take another deep breath and you say the first thing that comes into your mind. Welcome to my world. Now that I've said that, that sounds like I'm saying welcome to me, Margaret, my world. But actually I'm saying welcome to the world of my spirit guides. Having done that, then I say to my spirit guide, I am ready in my mind to surrender to you. They would then say to me, and I'm speaking out loud so you hear it, thank you, we will begin. Now that we have permission to speak through Margaret's voice, her personality and her character, I would like to introduce myself to you. I am Cornelius Tacitus. I was Roman. I was allowed in my own way to write comments about whatever was going on in Rome. I kept records of how Rome survived. I was a senator and often thought to be ahead of my time for the Romans of those days. Today you can read about me. I am surviving and still in this form as long as I'm working with Margaret and all her students. But when I'm not working with her, I am Moses. Moses is a life that I lived that was a very hard one. But in the effort of it, I learned to know and trust God. And in that sense, my evolution in ascension has gone on and on. Today, I do not like to say who I am, but if you ask me, I will say a name relative to who you are, what you know, what you understand, and what you want to do. If I am able to help you, then I will. And in helping you, I will open up your mind to new consciousness. I teach through this lady, and I will continue to do so. So if you are willing to come to her classes and hear her speaking, know that it is I who am speaking through you. You notice there is no pause, there is no ah, there is no looking about. I am looking at you and I'm focused, and she is not thinking anything. Now I will leave her. Thank you. You saw I did a breath. That was his letting go. Cornelius is quite an amazing personality as a Roman. He was pushy in his own time, so he told me, and he liked to wake up the senators who were nodding off with making statements that would make them go, what, and pay attention. And he does that through me in my classes. He'll say suddenly, quite, I don't know, I'm pausing because he's not talking through me. He'll say something quite simple, like, you're all half asleep. And everybody's like, what? I'm not half asleep. But what he's really saying is, you're moving into the twilight zone. You're moving into that area where your conscious mind is starting to be quiet. And then he can come to you and give you a feeling of his presence. So if you've been watching this, and the last part of me just saying that part, you may have felt him, because he is universal. He can be in the minds and hearts of trillions of people at once. You might say, well, how can we do that? The bottom line is, there are trillions of people on this planet who worship him in different lives. And so he hears that, he feels that, he comes to them, and he can be with them whenever they need his help. So he is an amazing man, Cornelius Tacitus. If I go to the Moses man, he was often very silent, very drawn within, relying very much on his brother, who was able to speak the words for him. So here you need to know that they were coupled together in that life. One shows and tells and leads the way, the other explains why. So we won't go too far with that right now, because I want to take you to the next step of awareness. I'm going to act this out. I'm going to take my glasses off, and you can see my face better, I hope. I'm going to come in closer so you can see me. When a person is channeling, you saw me with my eyes open. But in the beginning, channelers always shut their eyes. So I'm going to shut my eyes so you can see. Now, if you focus on me as I'm looking at you, you can see I'm thinking a lot. Now, watch when I shut my eyes. I took a breath. I'm not looking at you. I'm just being. Now, I'm going to ask Sister Teresa, who was one of my first guides when I was a child, to come to me and speak. I will speak to you in any way you wish to hear me. But first I need to tell you that I am a nun, and like to be a nun when I am working with women who feel they have no strength in their life. You may say I am trapped by a marriage. You may say I am trapped by children who don't obey. But I say they are a mirror image of you. And so your DNA, your RNA, has taught them to play up when you don't need it. I'm opening my eyes. I'm looking at you. I'm telling you, don't wind your children up by saying no. Sit down. Say, come here. I have something to say. When you ask me to do something or give you something, I'd like you to think, is Mummy tired right now? Are there things she has to do that I should let her do first? And if there are, then let her do them and make a time later, like half an hour, when she is done with what she has to do, so that she can say, sit down with me again, and we will talk through whatever your issue is. That is conscious channeling with a spirit guide that's worked with me throughout my life. So she still talks the same way she did to me. Did you see how sweet she was? How lovely? You need to be sweet and lovely too. So this is the beginning of channeling. You don't have to do any strange things like looking around or pausing and so on, because spirit guides don't pause. They talk until they're done. So anyone you watch who is eyes shut, pausing, looking for words, it's their mind that they are channeling. It doesn't mean that what they're saying isn't good. Listen, hear what this human has to say to you, but know that he or she is in the beginning of channeling when they're used to listening to their own thoughts and will speak their own thoughts to you in a way that is a little different from the way they used to speak to you, because they're channeling indirectly by receiving it from the back of their brain, taking it into the images in the midbrain, and then bringing it forward into their consciousness as being identified as a topic to speak about. And then they speak about it, and you hear it, and hopefully you learn from them. So don't put down conscious channelers. Okay? All right, so we've come to the end of the time. And this is just to remind you that if you want to channel, write it down first. Get used to hearing the words, and then practice speaking the words aloud when you do hear them. And in time, your channeling will improve. I promise you. And if you really want to know more, watch out for when I do start teaching on Zoom in the near future. Take care. Be with you. And do walk in the way of the oneness. Yes, this was a saying Spirit gave me many years ago that I used all around Europe, but now I'm saying it to Americans. Walk in the way of the oneness. What is the way of the oneness? Unity, peace, love, and an understanding of suffering so that you can help others in a daily way. Bye.